It's March the 21st. I've come down to a lake which is about an hour's drive from my house. Not fished it before, but I've been coming down here for a lot of years. There's several lakes along this valley here what I'm interested in fishing. Most of them are decent size, over 30 acres. I think the one here that I'm looking at is 35 acres. I'm going to do a piece for Carpology, and it's going to be about what sort of preparation that I'd go through when I come on a new water like this. So for starters, on a big pit of 35 acres, my first thing is going to be suss out what's in here, how many fish are in here, what I'm actually fishing for. For this particular lake, I don't really know. I don't really know what I'm fishing for, and in some ways that I really like that. I was over here last week a couple of times, and I did see a decent fish in the tree, in one of the snags swimming around, and it looked, you know, it was a good fish. It looked over 40 pound. So I know I'm definitely fishing for decent fish in here after seeing that. These are the type of lakes that I like to fish, where I've got a bit of space, where I can move about. And we'll have a look around this lake, and we'll have a look around others as well over the series that I'm going to do. And then you'll get an idea of, you know, some of the stuff that I'll do when I'm sort of preparing to fish a big pit like this. A lot of this is overgrown. A lot of the swims, a lot of the tracks that I've been leading out to sort of little snaggy bays and stuff, it's all overgrown. So it has been fished a lot, this lake, over the years. All these lakes along here have been fished a lot. Probably for carp for the last 40 years. But where they're quite big and they're quite wild and overgrown, there's a lot of secluded parts, there's a lot of parts that are not sort of getting fished. And you know, a lot of them don't hold fish, but like I found the other day, some parts will. So we'll have a good look about and see. One of the things that I've done before I got here yesterday was I tied up a load of rigs, as I showed Luke down here. I've tied 10 rigs up. Make sure I've got plenty of rigs on me, make sure I've got bait on me as well. I've got bait with me, and then we're going to have a good look around. I haven't brought a lot of tackle. I've not got loads and loads of time on me at the moment, so I'm looking at probably coming down here and just doing mornings to start with. Once I suss it out, once I feel confident that I've got fish in a certain area, then I'll probably come down and do a couple of nights. But for the moment, I'm just happy coming over here doing, like, I come down here Saturday, I didn't even bring my rods. I was walking around for about 4 or 5 hours, and that's when I see fish. I've done that several times. Today, I've brought my tackle with me, I've brought a load of rigs with me, I've got a bit of bait with me, and I'll see how it goes, but I might not even cast out, but I don't mind that. I haven't got a lot of stuff on the barra, there's a lot of walking over here. I've already done a good couple of miles this morning. So there really is a lot of walking to be done. So fishing here in the summer, doing days, it'll keep me fit anyway. So what we'll do, we'll have a quick look round. We'll have a look in some of the nooks and crannies, see what we can find. And if we do come across any fish, we'll have a go for them. But really, again, it's still early in the year on a big pit like this. So it's a bit more of a recce today, and see if I can find anything else after Saturday. When I was down here last week, I tried to have a good cast around. I chucked the lead around a lot off of this area because it did look good along here. And there's a lot of shallow water, which is probably a little bit too shallow. So what I've done is, there was a couple of swans, so I started to feed the swans. And I just kept moving the bait along, just to see if I could find a spot where the swans couldn't get to the bait. So then I could see the swan just down here, it's gin clear, and you can see a bait on the bottom, and you can see the swan getting the bait. But if you just keep moving it out and out and out, the swan was still getting the bait. And then all of a sudden, it got to a point where he was bobbing up and down, and I knew that he couldn't get to it. And just past there, you know, he didn't even attempt it. So I knew that the shallow water had dropped away. So that's where I'm going to start baiting. Just out of reach of the swan, but also still in shallow water. So, you know, I love fishing in shallow water, especially at this time of the year when the water's still cold and it needs warming up. Them shallow bits are the first bits that warm up. So that's going to be my plan. I'm going to bait up a bit today out in this area out here. I'll put a bit of bait out here, and it'll just be something for the future to keep my eye on. You know, when I'm walking around on my short sessions, and if I see something in the area, I always know I've got a spot that's been added. Not loads of bait, you know, just a few handfuls. Every time I come down here, I'll fire out in that direction. And that's what I'm looking at doing, getting 3 or 4 different areas around the lake, in the shallows, where I might be able to see fish, where I might be able to ambush one on a day session. I was down here on Saturday and I was having a look through all the snags, and there's literally miles and miles of snags around these lakes around here. And so, you know, I was bored of not seeing fish. You know, just wasn't seeing anything. And then all of a sudden I see a pike, it must have been about 10 or 12 pound. And it was sitting right underneath me, just down here in the clear water. And I just stood there watching him for a little bit, you know, seeing, you know, it's all I'd seen really. But then out of the corner of my eye, I see a big sandy belly, like a sandy coloured belly, waddle in, and there was a big carp, big mirror. I reckon easy over 40 pound, massive shoulders on him, real sandy coloured belly and like a real dark back. Looked a really nice fish, had a scar on his back as well that I could see. I reckon he'd been in the clay and all, he had a bit of clay on him. But he was a good fish, so that was good to see. And I sat here for about 5 minutes just watching him sort of milling around before he drifted off. But it was a good sign for me. I've been walking around having a look in the snags a lot, and I've not seen a single carp until then. I bet these reeds grow up lovely in here. I bet you can't see in here in a few weeks' time. These reeds will just still poke out. It's an old swim here, look. You could see there's a swim here. This would have been a swim once. This is the sort of stuff that I like, because someone would have been fishing, they would have fished out here. I've been walking around quite a lot over the last few weeks, and one of the places that I like is along here. I haven't seen any fish here, by the way. I've thrown a bit of bait in up in the corner and got up the top of the fence, and I could see my bait sitting on the bottom. There's quite a lot of boilie down there. I put, you know, a good couple of kilos of boilie down there, and I could see it all on the bottom glowing. And I come over here 2 days later and it had all gone. Whether the ducks had had it or not, I'm not too sure, but it had all gone. So there's something's been down there and ate it. I'll probably put a little bit more there again today and keep my eye on it. If I get up on the side of the fence, I can actually see the bottom. I'd have to fish it from here, which I like, because I'm a left hand. I can fish with my right hand as well, but I like to cast using my left hand, because I write with my left hand. So even though I reel with my right hand, I know it sounds strange, I reel with my right, I use the right-handed reel like everybody else does, but I do cast with my left hand. So some swims are better for left-handed spots. What I've done is I've chose a couple of spots that I've chose, having a look around of both left-handed spots. It just makes it a little bit easier for me, and it makes it a bit more difficult for the right-handed anglers and all. If they're going to come down and try and fish on my spots with their right-handed casts, it's going to make it a little bit more difficult. So that's what I'm looking for, little edges like this that I've used for years and years, little spots where only the left-handers can get to. Is something that I've done since I was a teenager, you know. So because you're going to put a bit of effort in on bait an area, you want to try and get back on that area, and you don't want every Tom, Dick and Harry fishing it. You're going to have other anglers fishing it. You ain't going to be able to stop that, because it's a public lake and other people can fish it, you know, and people pay their money, they fish where they want. It's just that if I do try and get a little spot where only the left-handers get to, it's just another little edge. Something else makes it a little bit more difficult. one of the most important things that, for me when I go fishing is to have some rigs tied. So yesterday I had a few hours spare. My son was out playing with his mates, so I sat indoors, got a load of hook link out and made 10 rigs. I had a full pack of hooks, this size 4, I think they're Kamakurus. So the hooks I'm using nowadays are super sharp. There's a very thin point of metal on the end of them, so you don't get many casts with them. You'd be lucky to get a couple of casts. This is full of gravel out here, and pads and stuff like that. So I'd expect really pretty much every time I reeled in to damage my hook, which means that I go through quite a lot of rigs for the time that I fish. A lot more than I used to in the past, where we used to catch the same fish again and again on the same hook. But it's changed a lot now, carp fishing, and we've got access to these really sharp hooks. So, you know, why not use them? I've tied up this multi-rig, which is one of my favourite rigs, if not my favourite rig, easiest rig to use. It's got a little swivel on the end, tiny little swivel. So I'd pull my bait into that, so that'll be got loads of movement. I've got a little hinge just below the knot to give it some movement. But it's a very, very simple rig. I've tied the multi-rig over the years a lot, and sometimes I use a little bit of silicone or a little bit of shrink tube over the eye. This time I have, and then sometimes I don't. And it's still hold still. But this time I've put a tiny little bit of shrink tube over the eye of the hook just to hold it in place. So I think I tied up 5 of these, and I also tied 5 with using a swivel. So I think they call it the Ronnie rig. Again, loads of movement in there. The way that moves around, again, size 4 hook, tiny little bit of shrink tube over the eye. And there's crayfish in here, I've been told, quite a lot of crayfish. So I've decided to use a screw-in, because someone said that they like to take the bait stops off. So I'm going to be screwing my baits on. So I've got a little screw on the end there. But now I've got 10 rigs tied, that'll get me through the next couple of sessions. You know, and if I do see a fish show, or I have to sort of, you know, I get a bird pick up in the night and I need to get a rig back out there quick, I'm all set up. So as you see here, I've also got some rigs as well set up, you know, like some heli-safe rigs and some lead core rigs and that already set up. So I'm all ready to go. I'm coming down here quite light. All I've brought with me is a kettle, pint of milk, some tea or coffee. Apart from that, some rigs, just a couple of leads. Really light. I've hardly got any tackle at all. You know, if I'm going to come down here for a few days, then obviously I'd have to bring a bed chair. But because of the nature of this lake being a big pit, with, you know, there's not fish everywhere. There's not, you know, it looks quite tough. So I'll be moving around quite a lot. So I'm just going to keep my gear light, keep it on a barra, and just move about and see if I can find these fish. We've had a good look around again this morning. We've been up a few trees. We've had a good look around the margins, and not yet to see a carp today. So I think there's going to be a lot of walking over here. Luke, who's with me today, filming, he's just checked on his phone, and we reckon that I've already done about 7K this morning. So, you know, that's quite a few miles, and I reckon by the end of the day I'll probably do double that. So it's going to be quite a tough session, but I don't mind that. You know, I've fished a lot of big pits where you're walking for days and days on end. You know, I don't mind that. So it's something that I enjoy, but the last thing you want is to drag the kitchen sink around with you. So I've really kept all my gear to a minimum. This is really all my tackle box is going to be. Just going to give you an insight into the basic tackle, the bare essentials that I'm going to bring with me for fishing on these short sessions on these big pits. So all it'll be is just like my catapult. I've got a small tackle bag here which has literally just got a couple of baiting needles in it, some bait stops, a pair of scissors, a pack of split shots, and some bait floss, and that's that. I've got literally 4 or 5 leads with me. That's all I brought, 4 or 5 leads, 2 3-ounce leads. A couple of buzzer bars, if need be. I've got a stage stand to get on the wooden platforms. I've got some leaders with me that I've brought along, so I made sure I brought some leaders just in case. Always bring spare leaders. And then I've got a few tubs of pop-ups and wafters, 3 or 4 different tubs of pop-ups and wafters. So it's not really much heavy gear in here. Pair of forceps, medium spom, a torch in case I stay into dark, and that's about it really. That's about it. That is all I've got. I've got a carp care kit and some PVA bags, spool of cotton, you know, again for using for hair rigs. More leaders, more than enough leaders, but I do like bringing leaders. I always like to use fresh leaders. I use a lot of tapered leaders as well. I fish a lot of lakes with a lot of gravel, so I use a lot of tapered leaders. And that's about it really. My buzzers, my bobbins. So I've really got hardly any tackle at all. A light barra, a couple of rods, so I can get around easy. You know, if I'm going to walk 3 or 4 miles with a barra, which is probably what I'm going to do today, it's not too much of a drag. You know, I haven't got an electric barra, I've just got a normal barra, like the old-fashioned normal barra, so. But I'm used to that, I don't mind, I'm fit enough to still get around these big pits. So I'll just carry on like that. Yeah, even if I don't get my rods out today, I'll definitely will be putting some bait in. The bait that I've decided to use on here has been the nutcracker. This time of the year, I've done a really lot of good fish using nutcracker throughout the spring. It's lovely and bright. The fish find it easy. It washes out really nice in the water. It's got lots of attraction in it, so the fish like it with attraction. It's good for the fish. So this is what I'm going to be using. I've already, in the last sort of few weeks, I've already put in a couple of bags, so they would have been seeing it already. Then I'll just be using some wafters over the top, or a nutcracker pop-up over the top. But I'm going to go with 18mm nutcracker. I'm going to stick with, I did put some bait out with a spom the other day, but what my plan is, as the year goes on, and if I'm going to do a bit of time on this lake and the other lakes that I'll be doing the videos on, I'm going to be using a throwing stick. So I do like that method of getting a spread. It gives more room for error. You know, the area I'll be fishing is a lot bigger to get 2 or 3 rods on it. Makes the fish feed differently as well, makes them moving around the spot a lot better, to make the rigs work more. Where last year, I was fishing up on Stonies last year, and I was using a lot of small bits and pieces, a lot of crumb, a lot of pellet and stuff like that, and I don't think it really helped me. I think it helped my spot to bring the fish in more, but I think it brought the tench in a lot more, and it made the fish feed a lot differently. So it made my rigs, it was harder to get my rigs to work. So this year I'm just coming on here with a totally different method. I'm going to use boilies, I'm going to use a throwing stick, I'm going to get a spread, and I'm hoping that's going to make my rigs work a lot better. Well, I've been down here now for about 4 or 5 hours, walked round and round and round, been up a load of trees, had a look in all the margins, yet to see a fish today. So, you know, I'm going to probably give it another hour or so and then maybe head home. But it is looking good. It's so much warmer now than it was the last sort of couple of weeks when I've been coming over here, that I really feel like it's time now to get over here and do a session. So I might try and get down here tomorrow for 2 nights. It is looking that good after the fish that I see here on Saturday. Put some more bait in today, not loads, another kilo on the spot, just spread it out with a stick. And then I'll just probably come down here hopefully tomorrow, do 2 nights and just keep my eye on the lake. So that's it from me. If we get any nice fish, we'll be videoing them, and hopefully in the next video you'll be able to see catch up on what I've caught, if I've caught, from this new big pit. So enjoy the video and I'll speak to you soon.